Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today to discuss what is Baroque. So, let's define what is Baroque. Baroque art, a word that is believed to derive from the Portuguese word barroco, meaning irregularly shaped pearl, a pearl of irregular shape. In another term, there's another term in Baroque art, the word Italian. In Italian, the meaning of Baroque there is bizarre. A bizarre is something strange or unusual, especially just to cause interest or amusement. So, why it is called irregularly shaped pearl, a pearl of irregular shape, the Baroque? It is called because it is used as jewelry as the 16th century. Rosselló and other critics of Romeo's Hippolyte of it article called the opera baroque because it is seemingly irregular melodies, disjunctive harmonies, and frequently changing keys and meters. So, next, it implies strangeness, irregularity, and extravagance. In other words, baroque is extravagant. Next, the more dramatic, the better. Why? Because Baroque iconography was direct, obvious, and dramatic, intending to appeal above all the senses and the emotion in order to appeal our sense and our emotions. Because the techniques refers to the interplay between light and dark and is often used in paintings of dimly lit scenes to produce a very high contrast dramatic atmosphere. So, there was also, in Baroque art, there was a continuation of classicism and naturalism of the Renaissance. Because the Baroque period was born out in the Renaissance during the early to mid-70s. Many Italian artists began painting in a way that more closely aligned with the Baroque period in the early 60s. But this art was mainly centered in Spain and Portugal. Also, the Baroque art refers to a form of art that was originated in Rome. But even the Baroque comes from the Renaissance, still there are different art and use that compared to other two. For example, in Renaissance art, there is the balance, the ideal of beauty, simplicity, the proportions, the straight lines, and the predominance of drawing over color and light. While in Baroque art, the movement, the realism in representation, the complexity, the interest in surprising the audience, the lines curve, concave, and convex, also it is a predominance of color and light over drawing. Also, the difference between these two is that Baroque art is characterized by ornate details, while the Renaissance art is characterized by the fusion of Christianity and science in order to create realism through art. Next, let's proceed to the I mean I mean it's still in Baroque, the old definition of Baroque. So, the older meaning of Baroque is synonym for capricious, overwrought, and florid. So it means that the old Baroque is whimsical or fantastic. Some of the qualities most frequently associated with the Baroque are grandeur, sensuous, richness, drama, vitality, movement, tension, and a tendency to blur distinctions between various arts. In grandeur means that transitioning from one color hue to other, or from one shade to another. When we say sensus is relating or providing pleasure through gratification of the senses. It implies the sake of aesthetic pleasure. Aesthetic is used to talk about the beauty of art and the people's appreciation of art. Next is the Baroque period. The Baroque period from 1600 to 1720, an age of genius in many fields of endeavor, The Baroque period in Europe includes a number of post-Renaissance styles that do not have much in common, like I said earlier. Era of absolute monarchy, so there's a king. Religious wars versus Catholics and Protestants. And also the art was used to restore power of monarchy and to the church. Also, in Baroque period, the term Baroque is a word used to describe a style of art from a certain period in history. But it doesn't mean music lang siya, but it is a period of Baroque architecture, literature, and art. This period was a very cultured period with lavish architecture and art that displayed bright colors and elegance as a result of the fine musical change and also to the art. Next is the Baroque styles of arts and architecture. It is dramatic and emotional. Like I said earlier, why it is dramatic? Because it appeals above all to our senses and to our emotions. Also, the color were brighter than bright, darks were darker. So it means if the color were bright, it means bright. If it is darks, it will usually much more darker than dark. It is also counter-reformation art. Paintings and sculptures in church context should speak to the illiterate rather than to the well-informed. When we say illiterate, it is uneducated, or there is no education, compared to the well-informed who has knowledge for that painting and sculpture in church context. Ecclesiastical art, it is an art for decoration of the church. Diba? Ang mga decoration sa church, makakuan yun ta. There's emotion na to nga makita that hardly have any existence. Kay in England, towards the middle of the 19th century, na siya bagong movement. Next is the Holland. Real people portrayed as the primary objective. In Baroque art, it is characterized by great drama, rich deep color, and intense light and dark shadows. So, in Holland, people portrayed as the primary objective. So, it means, ang ilahang art ngadto is ang primary gyud nilang portrait is people. Di siya primary sa mga trees, sa mga environment, but people. Next is artists involved in Baroque period with their artworks. First is Michelangelo Merese da Caravaggio, known as Caravaggio, an Italian painter active in Rome for most of his artistic life. During the final 4 years of his life, he moved between Naples, Malta, and Sicily until his death. His paintings have been characterized by art critics as combining a realistic observation of the human state, both physical and emotional, with a dramatic use of lighting, which had a formative influence on Baroque. Another background of Michelangelo, he is famous during his life for his violent behavior. It means he has a bad personality rather than his art. The Italian artist from Bergamo came to be known as a pioneer of tenebrism or tenebroso, the use of dramatic contrast between light and shade. So, let's move forward to his artwork. First, the Judith beheading Holofernes. Judith beheading Holofernes is a painting of a biblical episode by Caravaggio, painted in 1598 to 1599 or 1602, in which the widow Judith stayed with the Assyrian general Holofernes in his tent after a banquet, then decapitated him after he passed out drunk. Another background of Judith beheading Holofernes is that in the Bible, when she describes her heroic act that freed the people of Israel from the siege by Nebuchadnezzar's army, Judith went to the encampment of the first Holofernes, general of the enemy army. dressed in her best clothes and feigning a wish to forge an alliance. Struck by her beauty, the Assyrian general invited her to a lavish banquet in his tent. After eating and drinking, Holofernes, now drunk, fell asleep on his bed, allowing Judith to seize her chance to draw her scimitar and strike the deadly blow. So who is this Holofernes? Holofernes is an Assyrian general dispatched by Nebuchadnezzar to take vengeance on the nation who withheld assistance for his recent war. So si Holofernes usara siya ka general ni Nebuchadnezzar nga gipadala to have vengeance on the nation nga ning kuan niya og war. The next painting of Michelangelo, he painted the calling of Saint Matthew. It means depicting the moment at which Jesus Christ inspires Matthew to follow him. It was completed in 1599 to 1600 for the Contrarelli Chapel in the Church of the Friends Congregation, San Luigi dei Francesi in Rome, where it remains. This picture is his signature style, based on his use of Veneverism and Chiaroscuro, would become known as Caravaggism and influenced painters throughout Europe. There. The Veneverism and Chiaroscuro has become one and it is known now as a Caravaggism. Before, Teneberism means darkened and obscuring, while the Chiaroscuro means a strong contrast between light and dark, usually bold contrast affecting a whole composition. Next, let's proceed to another painter, the Rembrandt van Rijn. Rembrandt van Rijn was born on July 15, 1606 in Leiden, Dutch Republic as Rembrandt Hermanson van Rijn. He is known for his work on 5 revolutionary painters in 1959, Rembrandt 1962, and Rembrandt 1976. He was married to Saskia van Eulenburg. He died on October 4, 1669 in Amsterdam, Dutch Republic. Rembrandt Hermanson van Rijn, usually simply known as Rembrandt, was a Dutch Golden Age painter, printmaker, and draftsman. Draughtman is what we say a person who draws sketches, plans, or designs. An artist who is exceptionally skilled in drawing. So, Rembrandt van Rijn was really skilled in drawing. He is generally considered one of the greatest visual artists in the history of art and the most important in Dutch art history. Now, let us see his artwork. First of his artwork is the Night Watch. The Night Watch was the most famous of all Rembrandt's paintings. A group of portraits of the militia company of Captain Franz Banning Kockue and Lieutenant Willem van Ruitenberg in the center. There. The Night Watch isn't a night scene as long believed. Cleaning in the mid-1940s revealed that it is set in daylight, so it was painted really in daylight. But, like I said earlier, Baroque, if it is dark, the artist will make it more darker. So, for you, it looks like it was painted in the evening. During relocation in the 80th century, the most famous Rembrandt's painting was trimmed, most notably on the left side, which resulted in the loss of some characters, but this also changed the composition of the painting by making the lightly clothed girl and lieutenant the dominant figures of the scene. The Night Watch is housed in Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. So, in this artwork, it depicts the company of Captain Franz Banning Kockue and his lieutenant Willem van Ruytenberg surrounded by 16 of their men. There, that's their men. Next artwork of Rembrandt is The Storm of the Sea of Galilee. The Storm of the Sea of Galilee is a 1633 oil on canvas painting by the Dutch Golden Age painter Rembrandt van Rijn. It is previously in the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston but was stolen in 1990 and remains missing. This artwork depicts the miracle of Jesus calming the storm. The only Rembrandt painting in a seascape setting. So this painting is the only one that Rembrandt van Rijn made. But unfortunately, it has been lost for 2 decades. In 1980, it was stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston by 2 thieves disguised as police officers. Beside the Storm of the Sea of Galilee, the thieves have also stolen the Rembrandt's portrait of a lady and gentleman in black and 11 other major artworks with a total value of 5,300 million. So as you have heard, this painting is really expensive. It cost millions. Also, the Storm of the Sea of Galilee is the only seascape that painted by Rembrandt that depicts Jesus calming the waves. It is said that Rembrandt included himself in that portrait to the boat next to the Jesus and his 12 disciples. So that's all, and thank you.